Okay, guys, my video cut out because I had to delete some stuff. So, here we are. Constant term is P. Q is the leading coefficient, okay? Now, make sure that everything is in order before you assign your P and Q. It should already be. I don't think they'll do anything tricky to you, but make sure that it's going in order from X's on down, right? So, P is 6 and Q is 2, all right? Happy with that? So, P is 6, Q is 2, and what we have to do next, there's a big long bar, is we have to find the zeros according to what the P and Q are. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at 6 and I'm saying, what are the factors of 6? Like what numbers go into 6, right?
2 and 3.
1 goes into 6. 2 goes into 6. 3 goes into 6. And 6 goes into 6.
Can
But
I ruin their day, please?
can you ruin their day? Kyle's going to ruin your day. Ready?
Plus minus everything.
Plus minus everything.
Oh my god.
Because 1 goes into 6, but doesn't negative 1 also go into 6? Because negative 1 times negative 6 will give me 6, right?
Can I ruin it
Or
again, please?
negative 2 times negative 3 will give me 6, right?
Hey,
So I want plus
hey.
minus everything. Okay, what else do you have to ruin our day?
And then you have plus minus 2, and then you have to make fractions.
Okay,
It is a
so
shit show.
now we have to do the bottom one. Okay, what are factors of 2?
Shut up.
What are my factors of 2 on the bottom?
1 and 2.
1 and 2, but plus minus 1 and plus minus 2. Okay, all right, ready?
Good pen.
This is going to give me a list of possible zeros. Okay, a list of possible zeros. Here's my list of possible zeros. What I do is I now take this information and I put them over top of each other. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to do 1 over 1. What's 1 divided by 1?
1.
Plus minus 1, okay? 2 divided by 1 is plus minus 2. 3 divided by 1, plus minus 3. 6 divided by 1 is plus minus 6, yeah? Okay, then, but I have to do it all over again. Because I have to go through and I have to do the 2's on the bottom, right? So now we do 1 over 2, which is plus minus 1/2, yeah? Now, the nice thing is, 2 divided by 2 is plus minus 1, which is already in my list, so I don't have to list it twice, right? Okay? 3 divided by 2 is plus minus 3 over 2, or you can do 1/2, I don't care. 3 over 2, and plus minus 6 over 2, which is just 3, right? 6 over 2 is 3. Okay, so this is my list of just possible zeros. These are possible ones, okay? Now, what this means, how many possible ones are there total?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
2, 3, 4, 5.
12.
12. Technically with the plus and minus, there are 12 possible numbers that could be zeros. Now, here is what this means. Okay, listen to this very carefully. This is important. Okay? If the number is not in this list, like the number 5 is not in this list, it could not be a 0. It cannot be an x-intercept because it's not in this list, okay? Now, what can happen is I can have imaginary zeros. We talked about that, and those are not in this list, obviously, of course. But these are lists of possible zeros, so like the number 12 is not in this list, okay? It cannot be a place where it crosses, right? So these are only possible ones. Now, we're going to go down and we're going to finish this to figure out which one of those actually work. And we're going to divide and conquer. So everybody get your calculator out because you're going to have a job. Everybody's going to have a job. Hold on. Just wait. Oh, you're going to take the hard one? I'm going to give the calc kids the hard ones.
What?
Because you guys have all done this before. Okay,
I'm
so
actually busy.
here's the deal. Before we start plugging stuff in, let's talk about what we're trying to accomplish here, okay? So there are 12 numbers here. 12 possible numbers. Okay? If these numbers are in fact zeros, like let's talk about the number 1. If I'm trying to figure out if x equals 1 is a 0, right? That was in my list. That's the first number in my list. Is x equals 1 a 0? How do I figure out whether x equals 1 is a 0? Plug it in, and what does it need to come out to be? 0, right? Because that would mean 0 remainder. If I plug it in, it would have 0 remainder if it comes out as 0, which means it's a factor, right? It goes in there perfectly, okay? So if I plug 1 in, 2 times 1 to the 4th power is just 2, plus 1 to the 3rd power is 1, minus 17 times 1 squared is just minus 17, minus 4 plus 6. If you haven't figured it out yet, when you are plugging just the number 1 in, you're just adding the leading coefficients to each other, right? Because the things aren't going to do anything. So 2 plus 1 minus 17 minus 4 plus 6. Is that going to come out to be 0?
No.
I don't think so.
It
So
doesn't.
1 is not a solution.
Three
Okay.
halves is not.
All right. So we're going to go through this list, and I'm going to assign you a number.
I got half too.
How are you doing 2?
Okay, what?
0.5.
I'll do
All right, so we know 1 does not work. Anybody want -1?
I'll do
It doesn't work.
-1 does not work?
No.
Okay, 2.
I'm doing 2.
Who's doing 2? Haley's got 2. Okay, what about -2?
I got it.
-2. Anna's got -2. 3.
Me.
Jaden's got 3. -3.
Me.
Okay, Libby's got -3. +6.
Me.
+6, Chase. -6.
I'll do it.
Okay, Jalen's got -6. 1/2, I think, is Kyle's doing 1/2. He said positive 3 halves doesn't work. And we want -1/2 and -3 halves. All you have to do is plug in
Half works.
-0.5. Half works?
Yep.
2 does not.
Okay, you want to go through and put negatives in there?
2 doesn't work.
2 doesn't work. Positive 2?
3 does not work.
Positive 3 does not work. Okay.
How did you get out of this? I think you have to.
Me?
Yeah.
Because I don't have a calculator. Ha.
Huh.
You just have on my calculators.
Does not work.
Positive 6 does not work. Okay.
-0.5 does not.
-0.5 does not.
Yeah,
Okay.
-2 does it.
-2 does not.
No.
Okay.
Hey Jake,
Well,
did you figure out the drill?
-3 does. Hey.
Stop.
Hey.
2 and -1.
Plus minus
What does
1/2
this mean?
does not at all.
Plus minus 1/2 doesn't?
Is that
We already.
I thought you said
or
plus.
1.5 does not.
Oh, 3 halves doesn't work? Okay, -3 halves doesn't work. Okay, so -6? No. Okay, so out of that list, the ones that came out to be 0 when we plugged them in were positive 1/2 and -3. Okay, that is 2 of them. Out of how many should there be?
12.
4.
Looking at this total,
4.
the highest exponent is 4, which means he has a maximum of 4 zeros that he could cross, right? He could have crossed 4 places. Here is only saying he crosses 2 places. So what are the other 2? Where are the other 2 at?
They're imaginary.
They're imaginary, right? They're imaginary zeros, okay? So,
they don't cross.
yeah, they wouldn't cross.
It's like
Yeah.
if you have
They could be decimals, I guess, but yeah, like they would have to be irrational numbers. Anyway, they're not going to give us those yet. So this one only crosses 2 places, which probably is doing something like this, right? So we know an x to the 4th power looks like a w, so it's probably doing this where it's crossing here and it's crossing here.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
those
it's
2
got 4
places.
spots.
It does have 4 spots? No, it doesn't.
But it only has
No way.
I graphed it.
Okay, are the other 2 decimal places?
You can't graph them. That's cheating.
Or we just had people not put them in there, right? Okay. So, all right, we'll talk about that real quick then. So, we have 2. The other 2, write this down right here. I'm going to put a little note. Okay? So, the other 2 zeros equals either imaginary, they're either i's, or they're decimal numbers, like irrational numbers, like the square root of 2, something like that. So the other 2 are probably decimal numbers, okay? These are just the blah, 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 the rational ones, okay? The ones that come out nicely, okay? And 1/2 is technically a nice number, according to them, right? Because it's a decimal that terminates, right? Okay, so it's either a decimal that doesn't terminate, doesn't repeat, whatever, or it's imaginary ones, okay? We're not going to find those yet. Okay? Good? Yes, yes? Okay, we're going to go to, oh man, which ones do I want to find? Find all the zeros of this thing. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Let's go to factor this one completely.
You're so needy. You skip one day and you think you need it.
She said she doesn't like those ones. Why don't we do one by homework? It's giving you for yours too. Yeah. It's not just for her, it's for everybody else too.
Yeah,
Let's
but
see if I
know
find a
you-
nice one on the homework.
Well,
I
there's
don't
some
know.
I guess.
No,
The rest of us don't.
I would love to see you guys sit there and
You
struggle.
torture yourself. That's not our problem.
Is it torture?
Yes.
It's kind of smart. 'Cause I learned it in one class.
Okay, let's do number 4. Completely factor. We'll do number 4. Okay? Now, number 4, we're going to do number 4 just like we would do number 2, but it doesn't have A, B, C, D lined up. Okay? We'll do number 4 together. Okay? Number 4, completely factor this thing. Completely factor it. All right? We're completely breaking it down. All right, I could try to, actually factor by grouping does work, but we're going to pretend it doesn't. We're going to do P over Q.
Completely
Okay.
factor?
Completely factor. Completely break it
We haven't
down.
done this in
Yes, we have.
We have?
Because you divide it out.
What?
I don't know what you're
Yep,
talking about.
you should. Okay,
We're taking a test over
what's
today.
P?
Huh? 2.
2. -2.
P is technically -2. The negative doesn't do anything to it. Okay? Q is 2. Okay? What are factors of -2?
Plus and minus 2, plus and minus 1.
Plus minus 1, plus minus 2. Okay? The fact that it's -2 does nothing. What are factors of 2?
Plus and minus 2, plus and minus 1.
There you go.
1 then 2.
Okay, so my possible ones, my list of all possible ones are 1 over 1,
Yep.
2.
which is 1. 1 over 2, which is
1/2.
1/2. Okay? 2 over 1, which is
2.
2. And 2 over 2, which is
1.
1. So we don't have to list it again, right? Okay, so how many possible ones total are there?
3.
4, 6.
6.
Might look-
6 with the plus and minus, okay? Are we doing good so far? Any questions thus far?
None.
How we do P over Q? Okay, now how do we find which ones actually work?
Plug in.
The actual, okay? We plug them in. And what are we looking for?
0.
0. Okay, who wants 1?
Yep. No.
Okay, Haley's got 1.
+2.
Okay? -1.
I got it.
Okay, Angel's got -1 plus 1/2.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, so you can plug in 0.5 if you want to. -0.5 or -1/2. -1/2. -1/2. Jake, you can do it. Jake's got it. Jake's got -1/2. Ha. +2. Chase has got it. -2. You got it. Okay, a couple of you check. If you do not have one assigned, check one.
Negative?
You got -0.5, -0.5. Plug it in. You're plugging it into this thing. Make sure you get your numbers correct.
+2 does work.
Does? Hey. Okay, +2 does. Negative what?
+1 doesn't.
+1 does not. Okay.
+1/2 does not.
+1/2 does not. Okay. -2 does not.
-1/2 is not.
-1/2 does not. -1. -1. What? -1.
Does not work.
So it's gotta be 2.
Okay, so we only have 2. How many total should there be? 3. There should be 3 total. We only have 1 of them. But when it says completely factor, that means find the other 2, right? We have to find all of them. So we know that one of them is 2. One of the answers is 2. One of the places it crosses is 2. The other 2 might be imaginary, but we don't know that for sure. So we're gonna find out.
Oh, you gotta do the stupid thing to do that.
How do I get this 2 like out of this equation so that I can find what's left over afterward?
Set it equal to 0 and wait, no.
What?
How do I take the 2 out of the mix and figure out what's left over after the 2 comes out?
Graph it.
Divide by 2.
Divide it by 2. I'm going to divide by 2, right? So if my actual 0, okay, here's the deal. If my actual 0 is 2, then that means x minus 2 is my factor, right? Does that make sense? Okay? So I have options. I could either use long division and divide this thing, or I could use synthetic
I
division.
remember why I purged this.
Should we do
from
some
my
synthetic division?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, synthetic divide. Let's set it up over here, okay? My coefficients are 2, -4, 1, -2. I don't think we need any zeros. Okay, what number goes on the outside? Is it 2 or -2?
2.
It is 2, right? My factor was x minus 2, so 2 is my number that goes on the outside. All right, then we do synthetic division, okay? I'm going to drop this 2 down. 2 goes here. If I multiply, 2 times 2 is 4. That goes away, right? This is 0 now. 2 times 0 is 0. Add is 1. 2 times 1 is 2, and this is 0, and this is my remainder. It should be 0. We know that it's a factor, right? So that number should be 0, okay? All right, now we have to figure out what the x's and stuff that go into this thing are.
2x squared.
Okay? We started with an x cubed, and we divided one of them out, right? So this should be an x squared. X squared, x, and this is just the number. So this is 2x squared plus 1. Yeah?
Yep.
2x squared plus 1.
Set
Now,
that equal to 0.
how do I figure out what the other two are? How do I
Equal to 0.
Yeah, I want to break this thing down more, and now it's just an x squared. Now it's just an x squared, so I can break it, like I can break it down. It's a quadratic. Now I can do it, right? How would you like to do this?
Plus and minus negative. Oh wait.
Yep,
Sorry.
yep.
Minus 1.
Minus the 1 over, okay,
Divide
sure.
by 2.
2x squared equals negative 1. Got
Take
it?
the square root.
Divide by
by
2,
2.
divide by 2.
Take the square root.
All right, hold on. Just wait a second. You're ahead of me. Negative 1/2. Are we clear so far?
Yep.
We're just setting it equal to 0, okay? Then I take the square root. Square root, square root. Okay, when I take the square root, x equals, we have to include
Plus minus.
plus minus. Okay, what's the square root of negative 1/2?
1/2 I.
1/2
The
I.
square root of 1/2, and we put the I on the outside of it.
Those are
So,
your other x's.
how many zeros did we finally end up with?
3.
3, but only one of them is actually a real 0, right? The other two are just imaginary. But we have completely factored this thing down. We figured out what the 3 are. Does that make sense? Okay? So when it says completely factored, that's what it means. Like, use the ones that you know are real, divide them out, and then deal with what's left over, right? Okay? That's how this works. Happy with that? Okay, that's what the majority of this is going to look like. Okay? Number 2 is the same as what we just did, except, and number 3 is also, except 2 goes ahead and like ABCDs it out for you, right? And I don't think number 2 you have to actually completely factor everything. You just have to figure out which ones work, okay? Number 3 is going to be completely factor, and number 4 was a completely factor. So, there's that. Good? Questions? All right, get going. This takes a little bit of time, all right? I will give you time in class tomorrow to work if you are here. If you're not, you're going to have to do some time outside of class, okay? All right? Good, good? Okay, what did you need moved down, Chase? Where?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Goodbye, people watching this video.